Have you struggled in the exploration age of Civ 7 and are just wondering what civs might be the best or the worst? Well, you're in the right place. Hey everyone, this is Connor from Civ Haus, and I'm back again, this time to rank the exploration age civs in Civ 7. If you've been following the channel for a little bit, I've done this previously. It was around a month ago for the Antiquity Age Civs. Had a lot of fun putting that list together, and I'm excited to come back and do the Exploration Age Civs today. I've put in a lot more gameplay into this age over the last month, and have been really trying to focus in and get better in the Exploration Age with all kinds of play styles, and so wanted to come today kind of with my findings, especially after the 1.2.0 patch, and talk through my favorite civs in this age. Quick caveat though, as with any age ranking like this or tier list, this is just my take. You know, I'm someone with some hours in the game, but everyone has probably had great games with some of the lower tiered civs I'm going to talk about, and have had bad games with the good ones that I'm going to talk about. So this is always going to be subjective to a certain degree, but in any case, these are my takes. So I'm going to kind of talk through my rankings here and kind of talk about each civ one at a time. And then I'll put a tier list up on the screen at the end with kind of how I've bracketed this out. And kind of the last plug I'll give is we've just reached 100 videos. We're almost at 1,000 subs. We're really gaining a lot of great momentum with Civ 7, so we'd love for you to subscribe. And also to check out our website, thegamehouse.com. We've got written content over there. I kind of break down this list over on the website actually as well. If you want to check that out, I'll put the link in the description. But yeah, in any case, let's get right to it with number 12. And that is going to be the Shawnee. This one is tough. I really wanted to rank the Shawnee higher. I mean, there are a lot of things I do like about this civ. I mean, on the one hand, you get America and Mexico in the modern age, two of my kind of favorite modern age civs to play with, so that's good. I think their infantry unit here is very strong, so this, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, but this unit, getting +1 combat strength for every unique empire resource. If you can get, you know, a lot of, you know, maybe a lot of different resources within your settlements, with trading, this can really scale at a pretty incredible level. And so, purely based on a, you know, this is a diplomatic economic civ, which is kind of funny because this unit can really turn you into kind of a military powerhouse in some ways. So, that is great, honestly. And I think that with the changes to food, maybe Shawnee gets a little bit better. You know, food is going to scale better, in particularly throughout the exploration of modern ages, and I've kind of seen that start to play out a little bit. But still, it still requires adjacency to navigable rivers. And if you're not on navigable rivers, you actually get punished. Minus 10% to food. In addition, the production towards Serpent Mound, I don't really feel is that good. I don't feel like Serpent Mound is a wonder really worth chasing. The missionary here, the unique missionary, the +1 movement and rivers do not end movement, that just really doesn't feel like it's offering me a whole lot as a unique unit. I'd really usually be looking for, you know, +1 movement, rivers don't end movement, and then maybe something else. If there had been another kind of perk there, maybe I would rank them a little higher. But this makes this the worst missionary in the exploration age to me, for sure. And I don't feel like their unique building is excuse me, is all that good either. +4 food, +1 gold for each adjacent resource. It just doesn't really move the dial that much for me. And so with all of that in mind, I didn't see a lot in the civic tree that really got me that excited either. Again, with all that in mind, that is going to move the Shawnee to number 12 on our list. Number 11 is the Majapahit. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is one, honestly, I debated putting at 12 as well. These two I kind of have at least somewhat in their own tier, kind of towards the bottom. That is going to be actually our two that are in D tier. I was just kind of referencing that again really quickly, but yeah, let's kind of break this down, what I like and don't like. So I do like the Borobudur as a wonder. I think that it is something that works to help this civ. I always love a unique quarter as well. Pretty much any time a civ has a unique quarter, I give them at least a small bump, because usually it's just better than the buildings that come along. And Meiji Japan is one of my favorite civs in the modern age. It is a bit unfortunate that you only get the one unlock. You know, a lot of civs offer you multiple and can kind of give you different options of which way you want to go. But Meiji is still very strong, so that's a bit of a perk. The ability, though, to get to some of the negatives, the ability just doesn't feel that great. I mean, all cities except the capital receive +1 specialist limit. After the Exploration Age, the special limit increase goes away. The specialists become inactive until you increase the limit. I've never really felt super starved for specialists in Exploration, outside of, you know, when I've played the Inca and I want to load up specialists near Machu Picchu, but otherwise I haven't felt that big of a need for them in my playthroughs, at least. I could be an outlier, but this doesn't feel like it really moves the dial that much for me. And especially with them going away, that just feels especially bad. The unique missionary here, the Padanda, is better than the Shawnee missionary. It has the spread religion action, receive 25 culture and gold when you convert a settlement for the first time. I mean, that's not bad, but I still don't think it's the best missionary in the age. And again, it just doesn't necessarily move the dial for me in a significant way. It certainly plays into the cultural economic, I mean, very directly, but still. And then the Ketbang, I like this unit. It's a unique naval unit, +5 combat strength against naval units, can pillage within 2 tiles for 1 movement. You know, this is kind of a fun way to play along the coast and be able to still pillage inland a bit and have some effectiveness inland while still being strong against other Navy units. I mean, maybe with the increase in kind of naval presence after the patch, I think it could be better. But still, this just feels a little too situational for me to really give it any kind of benefit. So for that, the Majapahit will remain at number 11, kind of in our D tier. Let's move on to number 10. That's going to be the Normans. The Normans, listen, I think there's a case to be made for them to be good. I mean, there's certainly a case for all of these civs to be strong. I really like their civ unlocks. I mean, for what it's worth, Great Britain, America, and France are all pretty good to get. It gives you a ton of options for how you want to move into the age. And I could really see them synergizing well with a few leaders. Like Charlemagne could play so well with the Normans here. But overall, I do feel like you're pretty limited on other leaders that you can really get anything out of them. I also don't feel like the civic tree is great. I think there are stronger options for military civs. And, you know, like even with White Tower, I feel like it can be okay. But even then, it's got to be planned around so much to get value out of it that it just doesn't move the dial for me that much. That being said, I do really like the Donjon Unique Quarter. You get a free, your free unique cavalry unit. You obviously it's a district, so you get or it's a unique quarter rather, so you get the culture happiness from the different aspects. Those can scale really well. I don't hate the unique settler. It's a civilian unit capable of founding new towns, receive medieval walls in the city center when a new town is created. That's not so bad. Kind of gives you a starting point for each one, and it immediately synergizes with the unique quarter. But it just doesn't, again, I think the only reason Norman falls for me, I don't think it's terrible, but in the face of some of the other militaristic civs in this age, I really don't feel like it stacks up in any way, shape, or form, honestly. Sure, you get this unique cavalry unit, +3 combat strength against slower units, ignores zone of control. It's not bad, but I think the +3 can get outscaled pretty heavily by other units in this age. I could see Norman being a really good civ in its own way, and I'm sure there's some people that are going to, come at me for ranking it 10th, but again, in the face of the other military options, I think that kind of tanks it a little bit for me. All right, moving on to number 9, and that is going to be the Inca. All right, so I've played the Inca, regrettably, probably more than any other Exploration Age Civ. I've tried a Pakakuti playthrough where I played with them. This on my channel Let's Play when I was using Harriet Tubman when the game came out. I ended up going with the Inca. And, there's some that I like about the Inca. For example, something I really like is I think Machu Picchu which, again, I still don't know why it's Machu Picchu here. It could just be a more geographically correct way of spelling it, not exactly sure, but still. In any case, I think Machu Picchu is very good. It's adaptable, it can be used in any situation, and can just give you unbelievable yields, which helps in the science legacy path of this, and just gives you a lot of benefit in general, right? The Incans obviously work very well with the mountains. You know, getting the food and production on mountain terrain is great. Work mountain terrain. If you get a good seed, like I had in my Pachacuti gameplay, which I already mispronounced once in this video, I'm so sorry. Pachacuti, not Pakacuti. In my Pachacuti gameplay, I had like Mount Kilimanjaro near me, several mountain ranges, and had a lot of fun with that. And so in that kind of a seed, they can be very good. But that is kind of, well, it's a pro. It's probably also a con that they are so seed dependent. If you end up having to play Inca in this age for whatever reason, and there are no mountains around, you're going to be in a tough spot as far as value goes. Unlocking Mexico in the modern age is fine. I would love to have more options, though. Kind of working our way up. The terrace farm does not feel very good. +6 food is a decent chunk flat. If you just need to put something down, it can be okay. But it has to be adjacent to a mountain, has to be on rough terrain. It just doesn't feel the best. I think the unique scout is probably the worst unit in exploration. I've played again with the Inca several times, and maybe I just didn't go for the shipbuilding quick enough to get my units out and embarking, but still, it just did not feel good to use that unit. I just found myself not building it very quickly. The unique ranged unit here, also in the same way, very dependent on rough terrain. Sure, you get a little bit of movement, but outside of that, doesn't feel like one of the better units in the game. So you pair all of this with a somewhat decent ability, the Inca just don't feel good to play. I have them at 9. I could see a lot of people ranking them lower, maybe even being some people's bottom Civ here, just to be honest. I think Machu Picchu really does carry a lot of the weight and help make up for that. It can be such a game changer, at least it was for me in some of my gameplay with them. But overall, Inca do not provide very much. The civic tree outside of getting Machu Picchu is very weak, so you really just get Machu Picchu, then go back to the generic civic tree. So if you have a great seed, you're coming out of the Antiquity Age, maybe try the Inca. If you could get into Nepal afterwards as well, maybe go for the full mountain route. Otherwise, I'd probably steer clear. Moving on to our number 8, and by the way, if you are enjoying this video, just another reminder to, throw us a little subscribe. We love it. We love the support. Really could use it. We're trying so hard to get to 1,000 subs, so please help us. But anyway, no more plugs. Apologies. Let's move on to number 8. That's going to be the Chola. So I really like the Chola. I could see them, I think if I were incorporating more bias, I would have pushed them even higher. But just trying to stick with, somewhat community sentiment and really what is just raw value based, I put them a little lower. But if you have a coastline and you're looking for an economic game, this could be incredible. There's really a lot here. So let's break it down. Let's start with the unique quarter, the 500 lords. So you get it with your two buildings in the same district. You get +5 land trade route range and +15 naval trade route range. In addition, you're getting happiness and gold and even production from this district. Feels very strong overall, especially this 50% production towards naval units. Again, a little bit dependent on being on the coast. You have to be on the coast to get value from this Civ, but still very strong. You get 3 modern age unlocks. I'm not crazy about any of them, but still, you get them. Especially, I don't think Nepal would work well with this at all. I'd have to brush up on Mughal and Siam what they do, but still. Let's go up to the ability, though. +1 trade route from the improved trade relations action. Feels okay. Maybe a little bit seed dependent, map dependent. Not the best ability. The temple is not usually a wonder that I go after. That's kind of a con for me. So I kind of, I don't know, I would use that as basically a way to downgrade this a little bit. But looking at the units, again, if you're all trade and naval, this can really be something. So you've got the unique naval unit plus 1 additional attack per turn if movement allows with the column. That feels bonkers to me. I mean, anytime you can double up on attacks, I mean, that's usually a commander perk that can only apply to 1 unit. Having it on every single unit feels very strong. Then you pair that with a unique naval commander that has plus 1 movement and greater sight. Opposing military units in the command radius receive -3 combat strength. So you can just roll in with your naval commander here, multiple column, nerf the enemy, and attack them doubly. Feels unbelievably good. Again, a little bit dependent on there being naval warfare that needs to happen, all of that good stuff. But if you can start off, trading and being your main focus, and then if you can fight when you need to in a very strong way in the ocean, this could be very good. A lot of weakness on land, not a lot of culture or science happening here, but still, if you're going pure trade, pure treasure fleet, all that good stuff, I think Chola can be very good. But overall, though, I do have it number 8. Even though I'm singing its praises right now, it does have some pretty clear weaknesses, and so it does feel like it has to drop lower. I think there are better, maybe not pure economic options, but at least somewhat more rounded. Exploration Age is not really the age for pure economy and trade in a lot of ways, but this can still help you to scale and be strong. So playing this a little bit more militaristically, I think, is actually the way to go. Let's move on to number 7. That's going to be the Ming. I think this is, arguably, there's one I'm going to come to later, but this is among, the top 2 science picks in the age for sure. Just incredible science overall. And I also really like this unit right here. Not going to pronounce it, but it's the unique infantry unit, plus 4 combat strength and featureless tiles, and has a ranged attack. So you just get a lot of optionality with this unit, a lot of benefits that can help you play defensively, offensively, whatever. And I also think this Mandarin unique merchant is very strong. You can establish a trade route to import resource for foreign settlement, plus 100 gold when using the create a road action. Not something I typically do, but can provide you a lot of gold, to otherwise purely scientific Civ. But you can use that gold to purchase science buildings to help your yields go up, all that good stuff. But it's not all good for the Ming. I mean, there is a reason I have them at 7. I'm not a huge fan of the Great Wall personally. I know it's memey, it's great. If you can get a huge one with a massive perimeter, it can feel good. And that's kind of where Forbidden City can come into play. It makes that even stronger. But all of that just feels really hard to consistently get value out of. And if you've got a crappy Great Wall setup, it just doesn't feel that good to play the Ming. I mean, you're just not getting a lot of the fun out of this Civ in the Exploration Age. And it also is just a bit counterintuitive to the age where you're wanting to usually expand, go out, look at marine tiles, all that good stuff, get a navy going. This just feels like a Civ that's maybe a little bit lost in the age. You only get the 1 modern age unlock with the, I think it's the King or the Qing. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it, but you're kind of railroaded into going with them, which isn't necessarily bad, but again, there's just not a lot here that I'm in love with. Also, this is just an odd one, -15 science per turn for each social policy, but not tradition slotted. That's just something you have to be very careful as you're game planning, and is a bit restrictive. But still, plus 50% science in the capital is undeniably very, very strong, and so keeps Ming above other Civs for sure. But still, feels firmly middle of the pack for me. I've also just never had a super successful Great Wall setup, so maybe that's influencing some of this for me. In any case, let's move on to number 6. That's going to be Spain. I have Spain at number 6, and I'll be honest, there's a lot of bias here. I really love the Conquistador unit. Alright, it's a great person with 1 charge, can only be trained in cities with a wharf. And the specific conquistadors received is random. Each conquistador can only be received once and can only be activated in distant lands. Cost increase per conquistador trained. Can always embark in oceans. So kind of that classic unique unit that's on a little bit of an RNG cycle there. I'd have to go back and look at what all the conquistadors do, but usually they are pretty good. And I usually use this as a way to kind of, I don't know, I usually ding Civs a little bit when they have a unit like this, because there is some RNG involved, a little bit harder to plan around. But still, I just love this unit, and I think it fits really well with the Civ, so I kind of use it as actually a bonus. It's great. This benefit right here is really strong. 15% gold towards converting a town to a city, or plus 30% in distant lands. So you can just have a whole bunch of cities, which, if you've been playing and keeping up with kind of the meta conversation, I still agree. I do think cities just feel like a bit more of the way to go right now than towns. So this is a nice way to be able to ensure that you're able to, keep your towns as cities, which is good. The plaza is a really nice unique quarter. Again, anytime there's a unique quarter, I usually get a little excited. Love my unique quarters. Yeah, you get plus 2 gold in the settlement for every settlement in distant lands. So again, that kind of expansionist idea is really fun. You get culture, adjacency for bonuses, culture and gold kind of being your main drivers here, which I do think works. And then your unique infantry unit, the Tertio, I believe, has a higher combat strength. Adjacent units receive plus 3 combat strength against cavalry units. Bonus is only applied once. This does feel pretty weak compared to other unique units. Excuse me. So a little bit of a hit there. I really don't feel like Spain is all that militaristic. I think there are elements where you want to go out. I think expansionist, I think cultural expansionist maybe even, is probably the better thing to call them, or maybe even economic expansionist. In any case, I wouldn't play Spain with a militaristic mindset. I would play it with a pure expand, kind of see what's going on the horizon. Yeah, with the El Escorial here, that's even more where this is a culture wonder, and that would have to be the way you'd go with this to get value out of it. If you're going militaristic or economy, you really don't get any value out of this wonder. So all that in mind, I like Spain a lot. I think this is where it kind of turns a corner in terms of quality. I think we're in the middle of B tier on my tier list here right now, with the next one being the last one in B tier. But still, Spain does feel pretty good. Played with them several times and really do like them. Let's move on now to number 5, and that is going to be Hawaii, our last Civ in B tier of the Exploration Age. Remember, stay tuned till the end to see who's in A tier, who's in S tier. Only got one Civ in S tier, so a little teaser for that. Let's look at Hawaii here. So I think the main reason, if I had to say, the main reason I like Hawaii is it does feel very adaptable. I feel like you can do just about anything. I mean, you don't get a lot of science. There's no science on the board here. I think that's okay, because I think you can do a lot else with this Civ. So let's look at it top to bottom here. Unique ability, or perk for the Civ rather, is 25 culture each time a settlement expands to marine terrain. I think this is really fun, especially as you're, founding your settlements on islands and kind of expanding out. You're just going to get all this culture flowing in, and you get happiness on fishing boats. I think those are great benefits. Now, maybe okay is a better way to say it. I think they're great, but I do think in terms of comparing them to other Civs benefits, it is a little lackluster. I mean, 25 culture is a small number when you start to see just how much culture scaling happens each turn. You're really getting a fraction of what you get each turn on standard speed, so a little bit of a knock there. But I will say, getting the Hale o Kiawe, this wonder feels very good for Hawaii. Again, with the right seed, it is very coastally dependent, but I think could be very, very good. I also really like both of the units for Hawaii. So the unique infantry unit here, plus 3 combat strength against infantry and cavalry units, so already makes it practically better than the one we just talked about. And you get culture from defeating enemy units. Very strong. And I think this Kahuna, though, is probably the best missionary and maybe the best support unit, I think, in this age. So it's a Hawaiian unique missionary, has an action to heal adjacent units, and you receive 25 gold when you convert to settlement. So you can be converting, getting some gold, and also healing your units. There's just a lot of utility. Anything that can provide such drastic kind of swings in utility feels really good. But it's not all good for Hawaii because I really don't like this building. Your farms get culture, you get food and production. That's about it. This just does not move the meter for me at all. But I do think overall Hawaii is pretty good. I don't think you can make the case that they're just like this incredibly S tier thing. But if you're looking for literally just as it says, cultural expansionist, I do think it's very good. You get Meiji Japan, which is one of my favorite modern age civs. Always good. But in general, I think adaptability, maybe a little bit of a cultural emphasis, but an ability to be combative as well is really, really strong. So I am a big fan of Hawaii at the number 5 spot in the Exploration Age Civs. Let's move on now, though. Our first Civ in A tier, that's going to be Mongolia at number 4. I have a lot of thoughts about Mongolia. I've played a lot of Mongolia, and just because it's so different from the rest, it feels like it's just this, it's obviously very anti-expanding to other continents. You just play it. I think everyone's probably played Charlemagne with Mongolia, and it does feel very good. You can play Trung Trok as well, some other military leaders. I think Mongolia, in terms of just pure military, is probably the strongest Civ in this age, maybe in the game. You get great synergy with both your unique units. You get the Mongolian unique ranged unit, +1 movement, heals 15 HP after defeating an enemy unit, counts as cavalry unit, and ignores zone of control. The healing is nice. 15 doesn't feel great. It's not a ton, but still good. And then your unique commander gives you +50% flanking to cavalry units in the command radius. Your wonder helps you as well with cavalry units. I think you get cavalry units from that. The building, though, is not my favorite. I've played with it before where I've had a great or two, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But like I said, I've had some really great ones where I've been able to move like 20 tiles because of a cavalry unit kind of hopscotching along these. But it does feel a bit niche, and you're not getting a whole lot from it besides gold, and it does take up a spot in your settlement, which is a bit of a hit. So yeah, this one I think requires just so much forward planning. The other thing that obviously just hits Mongolia really hard is map seed. It can be really devastating if you cannot expand in your starting continent, or maybe you already expanded a little too much in the Antiquity Age. If you're playing military, you might have done that. So it's a little dependent. Also, if you go after, maybe your first settlement militaristically and you fail and you can't snowball in this age, I think Mongolia can feel really bad. Now, that being said, I think it's pretty easy to snowball, especially if you're able to pick off a few smaller settlements first. I think it can feel really good. And it is certainly a great way to go for the military legacy path here. But, again, because of the hit that you're getting towards producing settlers, and you're going to get cavalry units kind of on, continually, I do think Mongolia and the right hands can be very, very strong in the Exploration Age. However, there is another Civ that I like a little bit more when it comes to expansionist. That is going to be Bulgaria. Okay? So I think Mongolia and Bulgaria are two at the 3 and 4 spot that I debated swapping several times. And it honestly, even as I'm recording the voiceover for this, I could have seen it going either way. So don't go after me too hard if you have Mongolia like at 3 and Bulgaria at 4. But I have Bulgaria at 3 because I really think that the pillaging here can be so strong. So let's look at it. So, Crumb's Dynasty ability, receive food to all towns. That's kind of our first yellow flag here. When pillaging improvements equal to 50% of the yield or HP gained. All combat units receive -3 combat strength against districts with medieval walls. Sure. And you get the Rila Monastery. The Rila Monastery, I don't feel like makes a whole lot of sense with Bulgaria. It is, it's great for wonders if you're able to build them. Maybe it could help you some there, but I don't feel like it really fits. That's probably the biggest con I would say. The other con I would knock is I don't think Hidden Fortress is all that good. You get the +4 production. That's kind of nice. And having, a unit gain stealth is pretty cool. +6 combat strength while defending, pretty cool. Fortification, a lot here, but with Bulgaria, you're kind of going to be going out, and so you're probably not going to be fighting much on your home turf, ideally. So that's a little bit of a knock on Hidden Fortress, but if you do need to play defensively, maybe in between battles, or you're getting a war declared on you, which will happen, etc., that's where you do get the value out of this. Only other knock I would say is you only unlock Russia in the Modern Age. Not bad after Bulgaria, but I would like more options, as always. If this was to all settlements, though, the food from pillaging improvements, they would be number 1, probably, or number 2. The fact that it's just towns and you have to play with towns, and that's kind of where your benefit goes, is a little bit weak, it feels, because ideally you have cities by this point. But I think where this makes up for is with the unique units. I really love these unique units. Let's talk about them. You have the Bulgarian unique cavalry unit, ignores rough terrain for movement and opposing units combat. +3 combat strength when this unit is fighting on rough terrain, ignores zone of control. And the unique army commander is faster, and units in its command radius can pillage for no movement cost. So with this, and with mostly cavalry, you just have the ability to just roll through. And if you can really go with, like, maybe you play Carthage in Antiquity and move into Bulgaria in Exploration, where you do just naturally have a lot of towns, and you can make that work, this is an unbelievable way to feed a system like that. So yes, it's a little bit of a niche playstyle. I could see people really hating that I have Bulgaria this high. But in the right situation, I really feel like, which is not a situation that's that far-fetched or hard to get, I feel like Bulgaria can be unbelievably strong. And I think pillaging, one of its nicest things and one of its biggest benefits is that it's a highly adaptable way to play. Sure, you have to have a military arm if you're pillaging, at least to a degree. But because of the way pillaging works and kind of the different benefits you get, in addition to it feeding, food to your towns, which food also gets improved in this latest patch, I really feel like this is a really, really well-rounded Civ. Again, could see it going at 3 or 4, but I think this one at the very least would be, its floor is kind of like high B tier sort of thing. In any case, I really like Bulgaria. I think it's an incredibly fun Civ to play, very balanced, all that good stuff. But let's look at number 2. And this is going to be the top of A tier for me on my list. That's going to be the Songhai. All right, another militaristic Civ here. Militaristic Civs getting a lot of love from me. I'm just realizing as I'm now talking through this. But I do think there's a lot of value in military in the Exploration Age, because I think it kind of drops off in importance in Modern Age, etc. Let's talk about the Songhai. The Tomb of Askia, I think, is maybe the strongest wonder, and also synergizes incredibly well with the Songhai. I think the Gold Bangles Infantry is also very strong. So this, by the way, gives you resource capacity, and I think the city it's built. This gives you resource capacity. Their Civ perk, +2 resource capacity in cities on navigable rivers, and your trade ships cannot be plundered on navigable rivers. Little niche, but if you can have all of your cities on navigable rivers, you can just go crazy with resources here. Before I get to this infantry, that also helps because you have a unique merchant who can establish a trade route to import resources, foreign settlement, blah, blah, blah. When you create a trade route, you receive 100 gold if this trade route if this is a trade route with at least one navigable river, which I feel like is ideally going to be the case. So again, a little bit of dependency if you have navigable rivers. They're obviously a huge part of this, also with the building here. But if you have them, this feels like an unbelievable way to print money. Let's look at the Gold Bangles Infantry as well. +5 combat strength when fighting on resource tiles, plus 100% gold from pillaging trade routes. So that feels very strong. And again, fighting on resource tiles can be a little bit hard to plan out. But if you can find yourself in that situation, it's a really nice little perk. It's not the strongest unit in the game, for sure. But still, a nice perk. And then the unique building, again, it's not a wonder, so I hate it a little bit inherently. But +5 gold and +1 gold adjacency for navigable rivers and resources. Ideally, you're going to have a lot of both of those. This could be easily like a, almost a 10 gold space. Pretty nice. I think that this feels a little weak, the unique building. I don't like that you just get Baganda in the modern age. And there's my dog saying hello. And it is a little bit dependent on navigable rivers, but I think overall, the Songhai provide the strongest economic baseline of any Civ. There's a ton of potential value with this infantry unit, an unbelievable ability to probably trade, which you're going to want to do, especially if you get the Tomb of Oskia going, and you have cities on navigable rivers. If you can do all of that, you should have a ton of resources in your Civ, which should allow you to do a lot inherently and just give you some great benefits. I mean, having resources is very strong, especially the right ones. And so I think Songhai is very, very good overall. But it is outclassed by one Civ. I think this is the best Civ in the age, and that is the Abbasid. Hope I'm saying that right. If not, embarrassing for me. Classic me. But I think this Civ, as a cultural scientific Civ, is unbelievably strong, and I think it's kind of in its own category in this age. Let's kind of look at why. I think, Tomb of Oskia is very strong. I think House of Wisdom is very strong as well, arguably just as strong. You also have an incredible unique quarter. So this has +1 science to all specialists, +5 science inherently, +1 science adjacency for quarters, science buildings and wonders, happiness with culture adjacency bonuses. You get a couple civs in the modern age, not really moving the needle too much there. But this one, I feel like, because of this right here, makes it probably one of the hardest civs to play, but can be very, very strong if you get it right. So let's look at this. So you receive 30 gold for each rural population of the city when you create a specialist, scaled by game speed. So what you're going to want to be doing is you're basically focusing in on a few tiles, get a few buildings down, leave a lot of open tiles, rural, and then kind of stack your quarters together to get as much value as you can. If you can do that, you're going to give science to all your specialists, which ideally you have a lot of. You're getting adjacency for quarters, which gives you even more science. And you should be able to scale incredibly well. Again, I think this one, I have not played with the Abbasid as much. But, and it's partially because I'm afraid. I just don't want to have to deal with, the rural population and managing all that. However, I think if you can do it correctly, it makes them unbelievably strong. But again, it is tricky. It's tricky to optimize, but very, very good. The Alim here, great person, one charge. This is the, the classic kind of, they're all random what they do, which it's always kind of a pro and a con for me. They can be very good. They can give you a lot of benefit, but they can also just kind of miss out. If you're trying to do one thing and you get another. They're never going to give you a bad benefit, but you know what I mean? It's hard to exactly synergize with this. The unique cavalry unit here, when stationed in your territory, get a +1 combat strength for every urban population in that settlement. Ignores zone of control, has lower combat strength than other cavalry units. So it's a little weaker inherently, but that's because they know. They're aware that this +1 combat strength for every urban population can go bonkers if you're able to do everything with your specialists that you need to do. So again, this is, I would say, not only is it the best Civ in the Exploration Age, I think it's the hardest to play. Because you have to do so much correct management of your empire, how you're constructing your settlements, where you're placing your specialists, all those kinds of things, that it makes it very, very challenging to play, but can be very, very strong. My dog, if you didn't hear, agrees. So, I'll put up the tier list now so you can kind of get a full breakdown of where I have everything. But that is going to round out my top Exploration Age Civs. We're at about 40 minutes here, so I'll stop talking, stop jabbing, as my dog also continues to bark. But I'd be curious to hear what you all think of this list. Am I totally off base? Do you have certain ones higher, lower? Have you had good experiences with these Civs? All that good stuff. But that is going to do it for this video today. As you can hear, my dog is going insane, so I'll go ahead and cut it off. But thank you so much for tuning in. And from our house to yours, we hope you'll join us for one more turn. See y'all next time.